You're the doctor. Nice Matt Smith cosplay. But anyway, what can I do you for? Ah yes, fish fingers and custard. Absolutely one of my favorite treats as well. Oh, don't give me that look. Of course I'll make you some fish fingers and custard. I can't let a fellow Doctor Who fan away without being fed. But it's going to be a little bit. It's going to be about 45 minutes. Do you think you can wait? Alright. You want to come in? No? Oh, hey, you have the TARDIS out there too. How'd you get it on my porch? Huh. Well, you must be stronger than you look. Well, anyway, it's going to be about 45 minutes. I'm going to knock on your TARDIS when you're ready to go. Is that okay? Okay. See ya. Weird guy, weighing in his TARDIS. But cool anyway, you know, Doctor Who fans. We're all awesome that way. But he did look familiar. Nah. Why would Matt Smith come see me? I mean, seriously. But now I do have to start thinking about the fish fingers. How am I gonna make the fish fingers and custard? Wait, what? That was the doctor. Holy crap. I just met the doctor. Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Cook That, where we make things tastier than finally being able to see the Doctor Who Christmas special. So good, so many feels. Ah, so many feels. My name is Doug Grosser, and I am your nerdy cook. Now as you saw earlier, we have a special request for what we are going to make today. So, from Doctor Who, we are going to make fish fingers and custard. So what fish are you going to use for your fish fingers? You can use almost any thick white fish. But what they have at most supermarkets, and what is the king of fish fingers, is cod. Our nice, beautiful white fish. Now, to make sure that your fish is fresh, when you're buying it out, give it a whiff. Besides making yourself look weird, it is going to tell you whether or not your fish is fresh. If it smells fishy, then it's probably not the one that you want. Fishmongers would try to sell you off fish that were kind of past their expiration date. Hence why we have fishy. So for this, we're going to need about a pound, but I'm going to show you multiple different methods to prepare it. You can use all of them or only one of them. Up to you. First, grab your beautiful fillet and begin cutting. Now, before we cut, I have a confession to make. I've never seen a fish's fingers. I know, it's crazy. So, if I was to imagine them with their giant bulbous heads with actual appendages, I would say that they're probably a little thicker than our fingers. So when you cut them, give them 2 fingers length. This way, you have a nice savory bite. So, start from when you have a nice thick slice of meat, cut all the way through, continue out until you have a fish finger. Continue with the rest until you have several fishy phalanges. To start off our fish fingers, we're going to have to start them off in a dry coat. Now, we could just use normal all-purpose flour if we wanted to, but I want to add more flavor to our coat. So instead of just normal all-purpose flour, I'm going to use almond meal. Almond meal you can make at home yourself if you really want to. All you have to do is buzz up 3/4 cup of almonds and that's it. You'll have yourself a nice fine textured almond meal. Now, if you're allergic to nuts, or if you just don't have it on hand and you don't want to have to take the extra time to go grab it, all-purpose flour will work. Don't worry, we're going to season both of our coats. So no matter what, it's going to be really flavorful. After our coat, we're gonna have to make sure that our final layer actually sticks to our fish. So that comes in the form of 2 eggs. Also, we're gonna need that final outer layer. Now, you can do this in multiple different ways. If you are going to pan fry your fish, you're going to want to have your final coat nice and thin, because if you have it too thick, it's actually going to stick to your pan and it's going to burn on the outside rather than become your golden crispy outer layer. But if you're going to deep fry it or bake it, you have a lot more options. You can do breadcrumbs. You can even do cereal. In fact, cereal is one of the most cereally crunchiest outsides. You can use bran, you can use wheat, but I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to be using a rice-based one. No, not the stuff that you make your delicious treats out of, but non-sweetened rice flakes. These ones add an extra crunch, and especially for those of you who are gluten intolerant, this also works. Because of the specific carbs on the outside of the rice, it helps create an extra crunchy crust. So, you're going to need about a cup. Buzz through your food processor, or just grab yourself a bag and crush them up yourself. And now we begin. Prepare the breading station! Prepare the breading station! All hands on deck! Voila! We have our breading station set up. Now, come here so I can explain. Now, as you can see, we got our fish, our first coat, our egg, and our final coat. We have not added any seasonings to this yet. Why? Because we can do almost anything for these seasonings. You want garlic powder? Go for it. You want some paprika? You want cayenne? You want something hot? You want something spicy? Well, the sky's the limit. You can season these any way you want. I just recommend not using any more than 3 seasonings at a time. Otherwise, the fish will start tasting like, well, everything other than fish. But for today, all I'm going to do is a very simple one. A little salt in our coat and a little salt in our final crunch. Mix it together. A little pepper, about a 1/4 teaspoon of each. Mix it together again and shake it out so it becomes nice and even. Grab yourself a plate or 2, depending on if you're doing this multiple ways. So I'm gonna have 2. Let's start off with your washed hands. Try not to have one hand touch everything. Why? Because if you start touching in the meal, and then you start touching in the egg, and then you start touching in the final coat, it's going to just get all clumpy and messy and ugh, just gross. So start by putting your fish through the almond meal to help dry it up, roll it on through, sprinkle it on, then put it into the egg wash. Use your other hand. Get it all nice and coated. And finally, we're gonna start with our fried/baked mixture, which means we're gonna go to the crunchy coat. Be very gentle with it. If you start manhandling it too much, the coat's just gonna come off. And then plop it on down. Do it with the rest of your baked and or fried ones. You can even do multiple at a time. For the next one, I'm going to show you how to do it right. Wash your hands, grab some gloves, and continue with your pan-fried mixture. It's going to start the same way. You throw all your fish into your almond mixture, get a nice good coat into the egg. Make sure you only use one hand, and then back into the almond meal. This is when you want to have a nice gentle touch, otherwise your coat is just going to come right off. Continue with the rest of these guys. You can either cook your fish now, or you can leave it in the fridge for up to an hour. Just cover it up and leave it in there. When you're done, just take it out and cook as normal. If you don't mind. Gotta get rid of my club hand. Now in the meantime, while your fish is in the fridge, let's make the custard. Start by taking 2 eggs and separating them out from their yolks and their whites. We don't need the whites for this recipe, so save them for another one. away you go. No matter which flavor you do, you're going to start it all the same. First by taking a cup of whole milk and putting it into a medium saucepan. Light her up and put it over medium-high heat. Now this is where you add your flavors. For us, our flavors are going to be a 1/4 cup of honey mustard, 2 tablespoons of honey. Now for the little secret ingredient, 1/4 teaspoon of smoked paprika. That's all it takes. It helps balance out the flavor. It'll give it also a cool red hue. Whisk it all together and bring it to a simmer. Now the technique that we use for this custard is the same as if we were making a sweet custard, which is where we heat up our dairy until it gets to a bare simmer. And then we temper or slowly heat up the eggs. We do this by taking a little bit of our dairy and putting it into our actual egg yolks and whisking constantly, because otherwise we'll have scrambled eggs, and that's no custard there. Have your egg yolks standing by. Also, make sure that you do this on no higher than medium-high heat. Medium will be better if you have the time. If you bring it on too high of a heat, it will actually burn the milk proteins, and that also isn't a custard. It doesn't taste too good. Alright, we have achieved our simmer. So we're going to turn this down to low. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our egg yolks, whisk them up, and slowly take a little ladleful of our hot liquid and put it into our egg yolks. After a couple or so, you'll even be able to feel how hot they're getting, and they won't look that much different, which is perfect, which is exactly what we want. Keep it on a low temperature, and once it starts actually getting hot, once you actually feel it get hot, take it and put it right back into the pool. Now one last thing that you have to do for almost every single custard recipe, whether this is for your honey mustard one, your lemon dill one, your tartar sauce one, whatever have you. One last thing that you have to do. You're going to take 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and you're going to whisk it into here, because we're basically our savory custards, not just a custard, but almost like a pudding. So like I said before, we're going to make it 3 different ways. You can do it all 3 ways, or you can just do one of these methods. But you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need your medium pan with about a tablespoon of butter. More if you do more than just what we're doing here, about 5 fish fingers. For your pan fried guys. Then, for your baked guys, you're going to need a baking sheet lined with aluminum foil and a rack to go above it. The reason why we want a rack is because this will allow circulation to happen for our fish, so that we can have a nice crispy exterior and a delicious interior. And finally, we're going to need to set up for deep frying, which means a bowl with a deep fry or candy thermometer going right in there. Now the one that's going to take the longest, but it's the easiest to do, is going to be your oven baked fish sticks. So turn your oven to 425. While your oven's heating, grab your aluminum foil baking sheet along with your rack, along with your fish, and along with some cooking spray. Spray this bad boy down so nothing sticks. Put your fish sticks directly on and give it one last coat of baking spray. Now each of these methods have their own advantage. Like I said before, this one is probably the easiest, but it does take the longest time. But it also has the added benefit of no extra fat going into your fish. For those of you who are looking to maintain a healthy diet, this is a pretty good option for you. One that's slightly faster is going to be your deep frying. And deep frying, of course, has a lot of flavor going around with it. Plus, it will have the crunchiest crust. And then your final one is going to be your pan-fried fish fingers. Now this one is going to also have a really good flavor because it's sauteed in butter, and it's faster than baking it, but it won't have as crispy crust as, say, your fried or as your baked. Each of them have their different advantages, and you can play around with each of them. Find out which ones you like. Find out your favorite flavors. Hey, we all have our individual tastes, so find yours. But first, let's make ours. When your oven's all heated, take your fish, stick it in the oven. It's going to be about 9 to 15 minutes, depending on how thick your fish is. Check on them after 9. You know that they'll be done when the outside is nice and crispy, but you take a fork, each piece, the meat begins to flake off. That's how you know it's done. Remember, almost lost my fish there. Remember, 9 to 15 minutes. Let's begin with our pan-fried fish sticks. So, turn your pan to medium-high heat and let your butter melt. Melt that butter, melt it good. Alright, once your butter's all melted and it's beginning to look like it's about to brown, that's when it's ready for your fish. Grab your fish, and that's what you're supposed to hear. Have a nice saute going. Now, your fish is only going to take about a minute on each side. Make sure that you get all sides. Now when you have a nice thick piece like this, you may want to go a minute and a half at least to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. Ooh, listen to that sizzle. Once you've done all 4 sides, give them a couple seconds standing up and then remove them. Now we're going to do our fried fish. Now make sure that you don't have any loose clothing that can easily fall into your oil, or any loose items that can catch onto the pot and throw your hot oil everywhere. I mean, we want to have a delicious time, but we want to be safe as we do it. Make sure that you also have a fire extinguisher and a lid just in case. Now, make sure that your oil is 350 degrees Fahrenheit before we begin frying. For your fried fish, make sure that you have a plate and a paper towel on hand, so that when you take your fish out, you have something to wick away the oil. Now for the actual oil itself, you can use any high smoke oil, which means canola, grapeseed, peanut. I personally prefer canola because it's a very neutral flavor, and it still has a very high smoke point. So, canola oil in, 350 degrees on the heat, then throw in our fish. Make sure you also have some sort of implementation to actually remove your fish once they're done. I don't know about you, but I don't have iron grip yet, especially when it comes to really hot oil. So better err on the side of safety and use something to remove it. Make sure that it also has several slots so that any excess oil will just drip back into here or onto the plate. Gently place your fish right in. This is only going to take about a minute or two. It won't be that long. So make sure that you have your plate and your paper towel ready and on hand. And we have some delicious, delicious looking fish. If you want it more of a traditional fish fry or fish stick, just make sure that instead of using your crunchy exterior, whatever you had it, just make sure that you use your original coat again. This looks quite good to me. This time, 10 minutes later, all done. Another great thing about this is that it's pretty much idiot proof, which is kind of perfect for me. Now, let's get back to the other fish. And there you have it. Fish sticks, 3 different ways. Now, I know you're dying to try them. That, my friends, is a good looking fish stick. Don't worry, it's an extra. There you go. I know, right? So tasty. If you excuse me, I have to go wait for the doctor to come. Which I hope will be soon. I really hope it's soon.
Hello, am I late? I need fish fingers and custard. Are you alright? You there? Oh, oops. No!